How would you have learned anything in life if you did not experience it? Whether it was negative or positive, whether it was for a short period of time or a long period of time. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Tech Guidance, and that's what we're going to talk about. Learning lessons in life is going to take time. So there's no timeline and there's no right or wrong way to live your life. So always take what resonates, leave the rest. Because there's no right or wrong way to live your life, you have to realize what may work for you, may not work for society, may not work with what you've been installed, what you've been exposed to. It is up to you to decide what you want to do in this life. And when you make decisions, when you make choices, you have to be 100% certain and okay with what you did. Rather, you have to learn in the moment as time goes by, or you just 100% are confident and trust the choice that you made. The reason why it's imperative for you to realize how certain choices affect you is because how it's going to show up in your life. Now, of course, when we're born in this world, we are taught and programmed information from our caregivers, our parents, our communities, our environments. And psychologically, emotionally, physically, and financially, we don't have control. Subconsciously, consciously, and spiritually, that's a different topic for a different video. So it's like when you're 5, you're 7, you're 10, even 15 up until 18, this is what they say legally, you are told what to do. And you have to realize that just because you were told what to do from the early areas, of your life, doesn't mean that you want to continue those things now in this present moment when you see this video or even in the future. The whole purpose of your past is to learn why you went through the things you did. A lot of people suffer, and the reason why people have PTSD is because you are not accepting what has happened to you. You're not being vulnerable. You're not communicating. You're not releasing. You're not forgiving. You're not healing, and you're not grieving. Now, grieving, there's no one size fit all, but being in your stages of grieving is going to require you to be vulnerable. It's going to require you to be angry. It's going to require you to communicate, and it's going to require you to stop suppressing your feelings. But if you were somebody who was born in dysfunction, corruption, chaos, or you experienced a lot of trauma and that wasn't a thing in your household, you didn't have support, you didn't come from a stable family, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, you may be confused, you may be angry, or you just may be unaware. You have to realize that at some point in your life, you're going to realize how certain things affect you. So this is where accountability comes in. And as your favorite mental health specialist, speaking from experience, being accountable is not an attack. How do you expect to become the person who loses weight if you can't accept the fact that you grew up and you were fed food that wasn't healthy for you? You can't be ashamed. You can't be embarrassed about what you used to do or what you used to know or who you used to be around if you want to change. If you weren't able to pick the food that was provided for you, you cannot be so hard on yourself. It's not your job to be so angry with yourself. You have to realize that in life, if we're not able to think for ourselves, it's literally a projection. And just because people project things onto you, so maybe people bullied you, maybe people made fun of you, maybe you grew up in poverty, maybe you weren't able, like I said, to have control and dictate what you were able to eat. But you have to realize that just because those things were shown to you, just because those things were exposed to you, that you don't have to resonate with you or that it's for you or that it's true. Like, you don't have to believe what people say about you or things that you know that are not true to you. Regardless, if everybody in your community, let's just say, eats unhealthy and you decide you want to become healthy. If everybody's eating unhealthy and everybody is doing things that are not making sure that their health is okay, you have to be able to create distance. You have to be able to say, you know what, just because everyone's going right and I go left doesn't make me a bad person. And anybody who has a problem with you going left, creating distance, and no longer being around people who don't care about their health is not for you. And you have to realize that now becomes the community. Now that becomes low vibrational. Now that becomes birds of a feather flock together. we have to be okay with the choices that we made previously. Why? So therefore, we know how it affected us psychologically, emotionally, physically, and financially. So in the present moment, we can control what we have control over. We can learn to grieve. We can learn to go through the withdrawals. We could talk about the things that affected us. We could cry, yell, scream, and shout. We can journal. We can go to therapy. We could book a session with your favorite mental health specialist at highguidance@summer.com. Or you could find ways to cope with the energy that's no longer serving you, because until you release it mentally, psychologically, it's going to show up in every area of your life. Your mental health, boys and girls, is connected to your physical health, your financial health, your spiritual health, your psychological health, everything. And it's not fair to continue to beat yourself up about how you were being raised. Trigger warning. If you were groomed, if you grew up in poverty, if you're being touched on, you may not have known that that was appropriate. Maybe you did not have anybody to tell what was happening to you. Or if you did, you had the enablers, you had the narcissists, you had the toxic people, you had the abusive people doing what they did. It's not fair for you to hold on to this pain. And you have to realize nobody is here to invalidate your experience. But speaking from experience, you cannot choose to be a victim when you learn lessons in life. You have to let go of the title of being a victim. You were a victim in that moment, but just because that happened to you doesn't mean that you have to move forward. And nobody is being dismissive. Everybody has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, including myself. Everything I'm saying is from statistics, from research, from being a naturopathic physician, from being a mental health specialist, a healer, whatever you want to call me, working with people, and my personal experiences. Everybody has gone through things in life. Everyone's not willing or open to be vulnerable in public. That's why I created this platform. I will never be ashamed. I will never be embarrassed. Nobody can make me feel bad about what I've gone through, because I know how it affected me. And this is why I make this channel, to use the voice, to use the privileges that I have, because a lot of people are afraid. But you can't be afraid. When you learn lessons in life, like when we go through certain things. For example, when I was 19 years old, I got into a really bad car accident where I almost lost my life. But the reason why I got into this car accident is because I was never taught how to drive. There were 2 times with my parents at the time where I was able to remember where they tried to teach me how to drive. I didn't have nobody teach me how to drive, you guys. I had to learn how to drive. Now, at the age of 27, I've improved my driving because of that and other things that I've gone through. But at 19, I used to be sad and I used to cry, and I just was so upset, not realizing I really could have just died. This was a life and death situation. It was really bad. It was really bad, and it still affects me now. But it's just in the moment, of course, I was sad, I was hurt, I was frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, the insurance. Oh my gosh, my car is getting towed. It was a lot going on. But later, I was able to realize, 1, I'm alive, which is the most important thing. And 2, if I didn't know how to drive, how was I supposed to know? I literally had to teach myself. My parents at the time, they were not together. So the 2 times with them separately, that was it. It was only 2 times. 1 time with my dad, because at the time he wasn't together with my mom, and the 1 time with my mom. Nobody taught me how to drive. So for me to hold on to that, now, of course, like I said, grieving. I had to go through in the beginning, learning afterwards to not be afraid. Now, I've been in previous car accidents before, and like I said, that one was really bad, but I've been in one, I think when I was 17 to 16 years old. That one was also bad too. That one I'm stuttering. That one at first, that's how bad it was, traumatic it was. It was so bad that immediately I was just like, I don't want to drive. That one, when I was 17, 16, same thing. I was driving, but I was in the car with somebody. I was so scared to drive. But other people at the time in my family and just in my community, the support that I did have was just you can't allow that to stop you. And at first, because the accident, same thing. I've been in a lot of trauma, you guys, and car accidents, more than 2, more than 3, okay? But at that time, I was just so scared. I was so shocked. I was just I'm never going to drive. I was so afraid to drive. I had to learn how to drive. And from that, same thing, I learned how to get better. Now, of course, I haven't been in any accidents since, and I pray to God I don't experience that, but you don't have control over life. You can only control what you do. Things are going to happen to us. So you have to learn how to face your fears. And even if things, let's just say things weren't happening the way you wanted them to, at least you know that before you left this earth that you did what you could. And that's what it is. It all goes down to, at the end of the day, trigger warning, your final destination in life is death. Like, we're not always going to be here. Like, you do have to take life seriously. You do have to take your life seriously. If you want to become successful, you do have to be serious. That's what nobody's talking about. You have to be serious. You have to be committed. I'm not saying that you have to be serious all the time, but when it comes to learning lessons, you have to realize, why are these things happening? If you're serious about change, if you seriously want to learn how to become a better driver, if you seriously want to learn how to be an entrepreneur, a content creator, go back to school, you have to ask yourself, is this what you really want, and why do you want it? You have to be intentional. You have to be intentional. Like, learning lessons takes time. And honestly, like I said, no grown adult, I'm 27, turning 28, is going to judge you or shame you. Anybody who judges you and shame you is hypocritical. They're contradicting themselves. And most importantly, they're immature. Because that's what it is. And being mature doesn't have an age limit. But most adults over the age of 25, if they are talking about you and they're gossiping about you, they have not healed themselves and they're unhappy and they're miserable. Because those are the only people that are going to talk about you and shame you. Now, when you're young, you could be naive. You may not know any better. It's not to condone it, but it just makes more sense because it's an immaturity thing. But it's just like, as you grow older, people are not going to make you feel bad about lessons that you have to learn from. That's like people shaming people for having multiple kids and multiple partners. Their body, their choice. Now, of course, unless people are coming into your life and they're showing up for you, they're investing into you, they're pouring into you, they want you to do well, don't care about what people say about you. I'm not going to listen to people tell me, oh, you should have did this, or you're not me. And you don't mean me well. Unless people mean you well, don't worry about people making fun of you or talking about you when you have to learn from the lessons. Because if you knew, and this is why it's so important to give yourself grace and to grieve and really just be honest about how you feel. Because once you own up to it, nobody can say nothing to you. But it's just like, if you knew better, do you think you would experience the things that you did? It wouldn't be so likely for it to happen. If I knew how to drive at 17 and 19 years old, I would not have gone to a car accident. On my own, at least. Now, the one that I was 17, it wasn't my fault, but I also didn't know how to drive, so I didn't blame anybody. And that's another thing. When you don't blame people, not even yourself, you don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to be embarrassed. You should never be ashamed about your situation, because you have to go to sleep at night and live through that. Nobody else is there with you when you go through your trauma. And if they do, all they could do is be moral support, unless they're helping you. Unless, like I said, people are helping you, financing you, educating you, supporting you. It doesn't matter. Learning lessons takes time, and there's no right or wrong way to learn a lesson. And sometimes it may take 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You don't know, but the whole purpose is to realize, okay, if things are continuing to happen, why is it happening? If nobody's teaching you how to drive, how do you really expect to know how to drive? How would you realistically? And that's the thing. When people want to judge you or make you feel bad, just ask yourself and ask them, well, what are you supposed to do? Because like I said, if you're not going to contribute to the problem or the solution, who cares? Learning lessons is going to take time. Like, you have to stop beating yourself up. But most importantly, in order for you to learn the lessons, you have to talk about what has happened to you. You don't have to come on YouTube. You don't have to tell social media. I'm not coming on YouTube. I'm not telling people my business. But as a naturopathic physician, as a mental health specialist, as a businesswoman, just as a person who is privileged, you give the resources that you have. If you say you're all of this in a bag of chips, the energy is going to speak for itself. Helping people is not an issue. This is who I've always been. This is who I'm always going to be. And when you help people, do it because it's the right thing. Don't expect people to give in to you just because you gave to them. Everyone's not like that. You will be disappointed. Do what you're supposed to do. Focus on what you have. But most importantly, you have to communicate. In order for you to start communicating about what's happening to you, you just have to ask yourself, do you want change? Are you ready to move forward? Because you're not going to learn the lessons if you don't want to move forward. If you want to continue making certain choices, if you're not ready, that's fine. But if you're ready and you may be nervous, you may be scared, make sure you follow for more. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Turn on your post notifications. If you have questions, comments, and concerns, make sure to follow me for more. And like I said, if you want a one-on-one session, head to my website at tigerhydroseptember.com. All my links to all my social media platforms will be in the description box below. DM me if you have any questions on Instagram. And on Instagram and on TikTok, I'll be going live answering common questions. And on my story, I'll be posting a poll for videos and topics and concerns that you guys want to go over. If I haven't addressed them already, let me know in the comment section, as well as the community section here on YouTube, okay? But learning lessons in life takes time. You don't have to rush. You don't have to feel afraid. You just have to be ready, because life is about choices. Once you figure out what it is that you want, once it is that you figure out that you don't want to experience or that you do want to experience, you will start to work towards it. And most importantly, it's a journey and it's a process. Okay. Love you. Bye.